Today, I'm finally doing a video on a car I've wanted to drive on this channel for a very long time. So without further ado, today we're going to be checking out the 2025 NX450H Plus, the plug-in hybrid NX. And big shout out to the new owner of this car, who not only let me do this video and drive it on the streets today, but also asked for it. So you know who you are, and thank you very much. Let's get into driving. So as I'm getting set up here, every once in a while, I get taught something from our Lexus guests about a feature that I didn't know about or how to do something that I didn't know how to do. And that's exactly the case with this car. So the owner of this car, who's picking it up in a few days, messaged me saying, hey, it would be cool if you could demonstrate the My Room mode on the Lexus. And in my head, I thought, I've never heard of that mode before. Let me do some research. So it turns out, and I didn't know it was called that, but I did know it existed, is when your car is plugged in. So being that it's the NX plug-in version, when you get in and you turn on the accessory mode of the car or the on position, the screen will say, hey, do you want to use the plug-in electricity to power things like climate control and accessories? And if you hit yes, this is called the My Room mode. And right now it's using the power from the wall to power things like the climate control, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, and it even gives you an idea of how much that is draining. So for right now, it's saying charging may take longer because of power consumption. At some point, even if you had everything on, you can get to a point where you're actually using a bigger draw than the battery is charging. So it tells you all that from the screen here. It is really cool, and it would be good in a case of like, you know, if you were plugged in at home or maybe waiting in the car at somewhere, I don't know, maybe waiting for a friend and you're plugged in, and you could still power everything by just using that plug-in power. So while we're sitting here plugged in, there is a few more things I'll talk about. One of them is the charging schedule. So since a lot of people are gonna just plug in their car overnight and let it stay charged, you can actually set up a charging schedule. And to do that, you can just add, you can do a start time, or if you really wanted to, you could set a departure time. Meaning if you knew that you had to leave for work at 7 a.m. in the morning, instead of having the car constantly charging the whole night, the car will kick on, as long as it's plugged in obviously, and charge just enough to be 100% by that 7 a.m. mark. And you can schedule that for different days of the week as well. So that way you're not constantly just feeding power into the battery. It's kind of like just doing just the right amount. Also, when you're in the energy flow screen, you can see that power coming into the car and how much it is as well. So power balance shows you if the accessories you have on are taking up more than what you're charging. Charging schedule is something you can do to schedule your charge. And then energy flow shows that you're actually doing it. And this is all while we're just kind of in the off mode, like we're not actually running the car right now. Okay, so let's go for a drive. As I mentioned, usually I don't get to drive these cars because they're usually custom order. So usually you would have to order one of these, wait, 6 to 12 months for it, and then by the time it gets here, it's sold. So I haven't had the pleasure to do so. Most of the operation is gonna be similar to any NX video that I've done in the past. So for instance, the shifter is that new electronic shifter, so we're just gonna put it into drive. And I'm also gonna make sure it's in EV mode, which it probably is, mainly because already this car just came off the truck, so it is empty. It's saying refuel, but we're gonna be in EV mode for the most part here. And I did notice when I was warming it up that in EV mode, the heater and the heated seats and stuff like that seem to be more like when you're in eco mode. So not quite super hot, obviously just trying to make the most of the efficiency of that electric motor. So there is a couple buttons in the center to play with here. They're not a perfect science in terms of like, the car still thinks it knows best, which let's be honest, it definitely knows best. So I have it in EV mode right now, but the gas engine is still on, probably because of the temperature outside. And when I go to HV mode, which is hybrid vehicle mode, EV mode or auto EV, and auto HV mode, I know there's a lot of just letters there, it still has that gas engine on right now. And again, I think it just has something to do with the fact that it's so cold out. So we'll probably hear it kick off. I can still tell it's definitely the electric that's powering everything right now. And I even have it up on the screen to show us that. And the power is good. Okay, so when you have the energy flow part on your screen, you'll see sort of like an animation of where the power is going and where it's coming from. So for right now, it's showing in the green. I can clearly see that all of the power is coming from the battery to the front electric motor. When I let off the gas, it turns blue, and we now see the power coming from those wheels into the battery, and it's showing all 4 wheels. If I were to step on it, which I'm gonna do, it even kicks on the rear. It kicked on the rear power as well, just for a split second there. And by the way, and I'm gonna do a harder launch or like a little bit more of an acceleration in a few minutes here. I can already tell that the thing about a plug-in hybrid is, yes, the range and being able to plug in every night and then just use mostly, electric motors for like most of the driving, especially if you have a commute that's like, 50 kilometers to where you're going. That part is super efficient. For me, it's actually the driving experience that I like. So for instance, when I press on the gas, I don't feel any vibrate, like if the gas engine is off and it's just the electric motor running, I don't feel any vibrations or no extra noises or anything like that. It's just like a seamless spaceship accelerating. That's quite calming to me. I find it very relaxing, I guess you could say. A friend of mine from Lexus Canada even mentioned with like full electric vehicles is people say that the audio from the speaker sounds better because of the lack of those extra moving parts and the vibrations and stuff that you normally get with driving a car. And to me, having a plug-in hybrid also gives you that, which is quite nice. So that's just one thing. Also, I do notice the layout of the screen is a little bit different from the NX hybrid I'm driving right now. It shows the EV range as well as the gas range. So I'm in the refuel section of the gas engine right now. But in the EV range, it says I still have at least 37 kilometers till I run out of juice there. On the left side, we also see it's almost like a fuel gauge, but for the battery. So we see that it's all the way to the top. I'm seeing that on my animation to the right anyway. And then again, there's a fuel gauge to the right of the screen. So the layout there is a little bit different. I also noticed when the front cross traffic came on, it had a little bit different animation than my NXH. Sometimes we see variances like from, for instance, wherever, if the NX is made in Japan or made in Canada, sometimes just little messages here and there might just look a little bit different, but they still do the same thing, and that's probably the case with this one. Now, this is the executive package. So we have a lot of extra features here. One of them is bird's eye view. We also have heads-up display, and we even have a button to park. And perhaps I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. That is one of the benefits of going up to this package. Things like the panel roof is also nice too, which is why it's so bright in here right now. And this particular spec is the Nori Green on Palomino. And what I'm finding is when I first came to Lexus back in, I guess that was like 2018, red interiors was all the rage and that's all everybody ever wanted. But now Palomino has become sort of like one of the more asked about interiors. Same with macadamia, which is like it's almost like an off-white. So these brighter interiors, instead of like those darker rich ones, is starting to become a little bit of a trend at the dealership, especially with, one of those unique exteriors like the Nori Green or some of our blues that we have, stuff like that. Okay, so while I'm driving, I might as well demonstrate proactive driving assist, since I don't get to demonstrate that quite often. So proactive driving assist is that bubble around the car that's gonna give you a little bit extra safety. So right now we're driving in the city, meaning there's lots of, there's a car in front of me right now. This car is coming from different angles, etc. And for the car in front of me, I want my car to be able to know it's there instead of just relying on me. Because maybe I'm talking to a GoPro and I'm not paying attention, or maybe I see a cute golden doodle walking down the street. And having proactive driving assist on means the car will recognize the distance between me and the Toyota Camry in front of me, and it could actually apply the brakes, etc. And that's what I'm feeling right now, is the car in front of me is braking. I'm going to just sort of like decelerate, and the NX will just keep me a safe distance away from it. In fact, it'll even bring it right to a stop if I wanted to. In a case that it actually needed to really stop you from hitting something, I mean, that's where it's really gonna shine. Okay, we're getting on the highway, so I'm just gonna accelerate a little briskly here. Okay, it's not crazy like the acceleration when you're in this mode. That could be because of us being low on fuel. I did hear a little bit of that electric motor like noise. I don't know the name for it, but really smooth acceleration. Again, right now we're going 100 kilometers an hour. The gas engine is not on at all. There's not really any vibration because, you know, we're not using an internal combustion engine. So it's just the electric motor right now. Super smooth. It's sitting comfortably at just over 100 kilometers an hour. I set the adaptive cruise control, and this one has the intelligent steering wheel control. So that means they're customizable, and I can see on my heads-up display what they do. So if I wanted to slow down and go up, I just sort of press what it says on that heads-up display, which, by the way, is a very crisp color heads-up display. I'm driving into the sun right now, and I can still see it really, really crisp. I see the greens, I see the blues, I see the white lettering. And if I wanted to, let's say, not have radar cruise, let's say I wanted to just have regular cruise, I can change the mode of that here from adaptive to just cruise control. Of course, adaptive is the way to go. I would always recommend using adaptive cruise control because just like the proactive drive assist, it's gonna keep that nice safe distance around. Now, another feature I wanna demonstrate is we're gonna have the car change lanes for us. So what I'm gonna do, I have cruise control on. I'm gonna half click to the right in this case. It's gonna say check surroundings, and the car will switch lanes for us. So what it's doing is it's using that blind spot monitor, it's using the adaptive cruise control, the lane centering assist, all of the features all in one, and very safely moving us into a different lane. I've had it kick in where I tried to do it, and then it just beeps loud at you and is like, no, there's someone there, and it'll keep you safe. I know it sounds like a silly thing because like how much effort is it to switch lanes? But when you're in heavy traffic for a long period of time, it's kind of nice just to like, boop, just press a little button and have the car switch lanes for you essentially. So I do really like that feature. I use it all the time in my NX, and I definitely recommend as you get familiar with your new car to try it out. Same with the radar cruise control, same with, you know, any of those extra safety features. It's just cool, and the car has it, so as you get used to it, it's good to use. Okay, so now we're on like a little bit more of a country road, so it's a little bumpier, but the NX450H Plus is just super smooth. I do wonder if the extra weight from that EV battery just creates like a little bit more planted of a car. It's not like the regular NX is rough in any means. In fact, it's quite comfortable as well, but this one just seems a little bit more solid. So that's an interesting thing. Also, I will mention the fact that we've been in EV almost this whole time, and I don't hear a ton of wind noise. I don't hear, like, we're driving right beside a highway right now. I don't hear like the cars on the highway super loud. So maybe some extra insulation materials is in this thing. I'm not too sure, but it is really, really quiet in here, even with that EV motor going. Roadside assist is another feature that I forget to talk about in like the showroom style videos. So right now we're in an 80 kilometer an hour zone, and my car is telling me in two spots, it's telling me on my heads-up display, maximum 80, and on my dash. And as we get into a 60 kilometer zone, which I'm just crossing into, it switches almost instantly. As I cross into the 60 kilometer zone, that sign both on the dash and the heads-up display switches to 60. And if I go over 60, let's see, if I go 61, if I go 62, it turns red. So another great visual reminder that I should slow down, like I'm speeding a little bit. I've had this happen where I was using Google Maps recently, sort of in the country, and I was on my way to the airport, and Google Maps told me I could go 80 here, and my car was saying, no, it's actually a 60. And I looked, and it was actually a 60. So the fact that it actually reads the signs, like it uses a camera and a sensor to read the actual signs, is more accurate than trusting something like Google Maps. Now the downside is if that sign is covered in snow, then it doesn't read it. And I've seen that before where the 80 zone ended, but the car didn't know that because it didn't see the zone. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to try the park assist function. However, the lines are a little hard to read today, so I'm gonna see if it picks them up. So all I did was I pressed the park assist button, and the car sort of scanned for some parking spots. And then now it gives me like an idea of it. Now, there's a lot of snow, and we're kind of just simulating this because it's not actually picking up perfectly. But just for the video, let's try it. So we're gonna hit start. we're letting go. So the car is doing its thing. It also turns on the signal so that people around us know that we're parking. You can see that steering wheel moving around, and on the animations, it'll also help you understand where we're going, how close we're getting, what the car is thinking about, like in terms of obstacles and stuff like that. Again, super fluid. This technology has come such a far way from like the first generations where it took like 20 minutes to park when you would use it. I mean, this one doing a great job. It does slow down towards the end here because it really wants to like make it perfect. And this one is covered in snow. Like we're in a snow covered parking spot right now and it did well. And then it says that we're good and it shows the outside of the car and how we're doing. Okay, so after driving it a little bit, I wanted to get out and admire it, especially in this nori green color. So one of the things about nori green that I like the most is it looks very different depending on the day, kind of similar to some of our blues and some of our reds. When the sun hits it, you see a very rich metallic green. And then when it's in the shade, it looks a lot darker. It's a little bit more of like a forest green. And with the NX, having a little bit of contrast between some of those grays and in this case, the gray in the grille actually has some metallic to it as well. With that triple beam LED headlight system and those frosted daytime running lights, all together looks super amazing. And is one of those cars that like, it looks better in person than on the Lexus website, I find. Also, I should mention, the triple beam high beams is something I don't usually get to showcase, and I can't today because it's still bright out, but in that feature, we have adaptive high beams. And what adaptive high beams are, is imagine your headlights being on, and when a car comes towards you or a person is walking across the street, instead of turning your high beams totally off, all it's gonna do is turn off the light that is crossing paths with that object. So I use my fingers for that and say if a car is coming towards me, probably maybe 2 of my left fingers or maybe all 3 are gonna just go down and I'm still gonna have light towards the right or towards even around the object sometimes. So that is a very underrated feature on that triple beam headlight system is those adaptive high beams. And a lot of people don't get to use it to the maximum effect, so I highly recommend it. Also, I need to point out the wheel. So that wheel with sort of that exposed metal and that darker gray just looks super sharp. These Bridgestones, for being a snowy day, also did a really good job. I recently drove an NX through a snowstorm and I didn't have winter tires, and I usually rock winter tires because I'm a big believer in it. And I was impressed with how well it did. Now, I still recommend winter tires because of stopping distances and stuff like that, but the ones that come on it really held up in a pinch like the other day when I was driving. So there you have it, just a quick overview of the driving experience of an NX450H. Today we got to stay in full EV mode, meaning that you can drive this in full EV mode. It has really good power, it's a really smooth drive, and can be very useful for best of both worlds, meaning you can drive it like a hybrid and have range to go all the way from Toronto to Ottawa and back, or you can plug it in every day, put it in that EV mode, and for those short commutes, and if you're gonna charge at work anyways, it does a great job of that world too. So a big shout out and thank you to the new owners of this car for letting me film and drive it. Like I said, I've wanted to do that for a while. Enjoy your new Lexus, and to all the viewers, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video.